God says, call from heaven. God, there are moments in life when an invisible hand seems to reach into your very soul, when a presence beyond this world brushes against your spirit and whispers something you cannot ignore. This is the call from heaven. It is not the sound of trumpets in the sky or a shout from the clouds. It is far deeper, far more intimate. It comes as an awakening inside you, a stirring you cannot explain, a sudden knowing that you have been marked for something greater. This call will not negotiate, it will not adjust itself to fit your comfort, and it will not disappear simply because you try to silence it. It comes to pull you out of the life you've settled for and into the life you were born for. It is heaven's way of saying, your time has come, the delay is over. Step into what I have prepared for you, and when you hear it, truly hear it, you will know that nothing in this world will ever satisfy you again except answering it. When God calls you, it is not always through the spectacle you expect. It is not a lightning bolt splitting the heavens, nor a booming voice that shakes the mountains. It is something far more profound, something so intimate that it bypasses the noise of this world and speaks directly to the center of your being. This is the true call from heaven, an inner stirring, a divine pull in your spirit that you cannot explain with logic but cannot deny with honesty. It may come in the stillness of night when the world is asleep and you find yourself restless, your heart heavy with a longing you cannot name. It may come in the middle of an ordinary day when, for no apparent reason, your thoughts drift toward a vision of a life you've never lived but somehow know is meant for you. It may come as a sudden dissatisfaction with things that once brought you joy, as though heaven has quietly closed one chapter of your life and is urging you to turn the page. You may try to dismiss it, convincing yourself it's just passing emotion or an overactive imagination, but deep down you know it is different. It carries a weight, an authority, a clarity that lingers long after the feeling should have faded. This is how God works. He does not compete with the chaos of the world by shouting over it. He speaks in a voice so still and quiet that only those who are truly listening will hear. That is why so many miss it. They are scanning the skies for a sign, yet the sign is unfolding within them. The stirring is not random. It is the signal of alignment, the announcement that your appointed time is drawing near. This is the whisper that changes everything, because once you have heard it, you cannot go back to living as you did before. It awakens you to the truth that you were made for more, that your current surroundings cannot contain the fullness of who you are becoming. The inner stirring may start subtly like a gentle wind moving across still waters, but if you ignore it, it grows stronger, shaking the foundations of your routines until you are forced to acknowledge it. It may disrupt your plans, dissolve relationships, or even strip away the very things you once thought were blessings. Not as punishment, but as preparation for what is coming. This is why so many resist at first, because the call from heaven often arrives as a disruption before it manifests as direction. But the wise understand that discomfort is the language of transformation. When your spirit begins to stir, it is because heaven has already seen the road ahead and knows you cannot carry the old into the new. This stirring is also deeply personal. It is tailored to your life, your purpose, and your path. No one else can fully understand the weight of it because it was not given to them. It was placed in you before you even came into this world. It is your divine assignment waking up, like a seed breaking through the soil toward the light. The stirring will make you see yourself differently, no longer as someone drifting through life, but as someone chosen, positioned, and sent. And the most beautiful truth is that this call is not a request, it is a summons. Heaven does not call you because you are ready. Heaven calls you because it is time. The readiness will come as you walk in obedience. That is why the stirring feels so urgent, because there is a window in which the call must be answered. If you wait for the perfect conditions, you will miss the moment. If you wait for the full explanation, you will miss the faith that the call is meant to awaken in you. God stirs your heart not to tease you with possibilities, but to guide you into realities that already exist in the spiritual realm, waiting for you to step into them. And so, when you feel that pull, that unshakable knowing that you were made for more, you must guard it fiercely, for the world will try to drown it out with distractions, fear, and doubt. People may question you, telling you to be practical. Stick to what you know, but they do not hear what you hear. They are not stirred as you are stirred, and that is the evidence you need that something inside you is alive in a way it has never been before. That is heaven's call, and the moment you choose to honor it, everything begins to shift. Doors that were once locked start to open, resources you never imagined begin to appear, people you have never met before arrive as if sent by divine appointment. This is not coincidence, it is the natural outcome of aligning your life with the frequency of heaven. The inner stirring is your signal that you are being drawn into that alignment, that God is weaving you into his plan in a way that no human hand could orchestrate. And here is the greatest truth of all. Once you have answered the call, the same stirring that woke you will guide you. It will lead you through seasons of uncertainty, through valleys where nothing makes sense, and into mountaintops you never dreamed you would stand upon. You will come to trust it more than the opinions of others, more than the evidence of your senses, because it will prove itself again and again to be the truest voice you have ever known. And so, when the stirring comes, as it surely will, do not ignore it, do not delay, and do not let fear convince you that you are not capable. You are not called because you are capable. You become capable because you are called. That is the miracle of the inner stirring. It reveals not only that God is speaking, but that he is already moving, and if you have the courage to follow, you will see that the whisper inside you was never small at all. It was the echo of eternity calling you home to your purpose. When heaven calls, the first thing you will notice is not a detailed blueprint, but an invitation into the unknown, and this is where many hesitate, for human nature craves certainty before commitment. But faith does not wait for the path to be illuminated from beginning to end. Faith steps forward into the darkness, trusting that the next stone will appear beneath your feet as you walk. This is the great mystery of God's call. It is never designed to satisfy your need for control. It is designed to awaken your capacity for trust. You are not called to have it all figured out. You are called to believe the one who has it all worked out. That is why so many miss their divine appointments. They pause, they delay, they debate with themselves, thinking they need more evidence before they can move. Yet the evidence heaven provides is not external, it is internal, that inner certainty, that quiet but unshakable conviction that you were made for this. Even if you cannot yet explain why or how, faith is not blind. It sees what the eyes cannot yet see. It is the ability to act as though what God has spoken is already finished, even while the world around you looks unchanged. When the call comes, it may seem unreasonable. It may pull you away from secure routines, from familiar surroundings, and from the safety of what you have always known. Faith will require you to loosen your grip on what is comfortable so you can take hold of what is possible. And here is the paradox: you will rarely feel ready, yet readiness is not the qualification for being chosen. Obedience is. You answer the call not because you have the resources, but because you know the one who owns the resources. You step out not because the sea is parted, but because you trust that it will part when your foot touches the water. This is why the call tests the very core of who you are. It confronts your reliance on logic, your need for guarantees, and your fear of risk. It asks you to move before you know the destination, to say yes, without first calculating the cost, because the cost of delay is far greater than the cost of obedience. The truth is, God's call will never fit neatly into your current understanding. It will stretch you beyond the limits of your intellect, so you can learn to live from revelation instead of reason. And revelation does not explain itself in advance, it unfolds as you walk. Faith is the language of heaven, and when you answer the call in faith, you align yourself with the realm where God operates. That is why miracles often follow obedience, not because you were clever enough to orchestrate them, but because heaven responds to faith like a seed responds to good soil. Every step you take in faith is a declaration that you trust God's timing more than your own, his wisdom more than your understanding, and his promise more than the visible evidence. And in time, you will see that what felt like a leap into uncertainty was in fact a step onto the most solid ground you have ever known. But you will not see that at the start. You will only see it in hindsight, and this is what makes the beginning so difficult. Faith is not the absence of fear, it is the refusal to let fear dictate your decision. It is the choice to move while your knees are trembling, to speak while your voice is shaking, to build while the blueprint is still forming in the unseen. And here is the beautiful thing: God honors the smallest step of faith as much as the giant leap, for both are evidence that you have heard and believed his voice. The call from heaven is an invitation into partnership with God, and faith is your RSVP. The moment you say yes, even without the full picture, you set in motion a chain of events that no man can stop, because what God begins, he finishes. The journey may lead you through valleys where the path seems invisible, through storms where the winds of doubt try to knock you down, and through wilderness seasons where nothing looks like the promise you heard. But each of these is part of the training, for faith grows in the soil of uncertainty. If everything were clear from the start, faith would have no reason to exist, and without faith the call cannot be fulfilled. God calls you precisely into situations where your reliance on him becomes your only anchor, because he is not just trying to get you to the destination, he is shaping you into the kind of person who can carry the promise once you arrive. This is why the greatest breakthroughs often come just after your greatest tests, because faith must be proven before it can be rewarded. The call is the seed, faith is the water, and obedience is the sunlight, and together they cause the invisible to become visible. And so, when heaven calls and you feel that urge to delay until you understand more, remember that understanding is not the starting point, it is the byproduct of walking with God. Clarity comes through movement, not before it. You do not need to know the whole road, you only need to take the next step. That is the essence of faith, to believe before you see, to obey before you understand, and to trust before you receive. And when you live this way, you will find that the path you once feared to step onto will carry you farther than you ever dreamed possible, for God himself will walk it with you. When the call from heaven comes, it does not merely ask for your agreement, it demands your obedience, for obedience is the bridge between hearing God's voice and seeing his promises fulfilled. You can recognize the call, you can even believe in the call, but until you act on it, the alignment with heaven's timing does not begin. Obedience is not just about doing what you are told. It is about stepping into the rhythm of divine order, moving when God says move, and stopping when God says stop. This is why delayed obedience is often no obedience at all, because heaven's timing is precise. The door you are meant to walk through today may not be open tomorrow, not because God's plan has changed, but because the opportunity was tied to a moment, a sequence of divine appointments, and a set of circumstances that only exist for a season. Obedience keeps you in sync with that unfolding. When you hesitate, you fall out of step with heaven's pace, and what should have been a smooth path becomes a detour. This is not punishment. It is the natural consequence of missing the moment. God's instructions are not arbitrary. They are timed for maximum impact, orchestrated to intersect with people, places, and provisions that have also been aligned in that moment. If you wait until it feels convenient or comfortable, you risk showing up after the moment has passed. Obedience may require you to move while you still have questions, to step forward while you still feel unqualified, to speak when your voice shakes, or to let go when your heart wants to hold on. This is where faith and obedience intertwine. Faith hears, but obedience acts, and in acting, you activate the flow of provision, protection, and favor that was always waiting on the other side of your yes. When you obey promptly, you place yourself directly in the path of heaven's resources. People you never knew existed will show up at the exact right time. Doors you could not have forced open will swing wide with no effort. Situations that seemed impossible will suddenly shift in your favor. This is not luck, it is alignment. Obedience draws you into the current of God's perfect timing, where every detail is already prepared for your arrival. But this also means that disobedience or even delayed obedience can cause you to miss what was meant for you in that season. God in his mercy can restore and redirect, but restoration often takes longer than walking in initial obedience would have. The enemy of your soul knows this, which is why he does not always try to stop you outright. He will settle for slowing you down. For if he can delay your obedience, he can disrupt your alignment with heaven's timing. Sometimes the greatest battles you will fight are not against visible obstacles, but against the voice in your head that says, wait until you're ready, or you have more time. But heaven's call does not come when you feel ready, it comes when the moment is ready. You are called to rise to meet it, even if you feel underprepared. And here is the truth. Your obedience is never just about you. There are people connected to your yes, lives you will touch, opportunities you will unlock for others, and chains you will break simply by being in the right place at the right time. Delaying your obedience can delay someone else's breakthrough. This is why God often stirs you with urgency, while you sometimes feel an unshakable pull to act now because what he is orchestrating involves more than just your story. It is woven into a much larger tapestry. Obedience is also the highest form of trust, because it says, I will follow even when I don't. Understand, it is the proof that you value God's voice above your own reasoning, and it is that posture that keeps you aligned with his timing. You may not see why he is asking you to do something now, but later you will look back and see how every step was perfectly arranged. You will realize that the moment you obeyed, unseen forces began to move on your behalf. Angels were dispatched, hearts were softened, and paths were cleared, all because you moved when heaven moved. There will also be times when obedience means staying still when everything in you wants to run ahead. This too is alignment. Just as moving too late can cause you to miss the moment, moving too early can put you outside of God's provision. The wilderness teaches you timing. The waiting seasons refine your ear so that you can distinguish between your own impulses and God's instructions. When you master the art of prompt obedience, you begin to see how much of life is less about striving and more about responding. The blessings that others spend years chasing will begin to overtake you, not because you worked harder, but because you were in the right place at the right time, doing the right thing. And when you live this way, you will find that obedience becomes less of a burden and more of a joy, for you will have learned that every instruction from God carries within it the seed of your next breakthrough. Even the hard instructions, the ones that require sacrifice, humility, or risk, are invitations into something greater than you can see in the moment. The more you obey, the more you will trust his timing, and the more you trust his timing, the easier it will be to obey. It becomes a cycle of alignment where your steps and God's plan move as one, and so, when the call from heaven comes, let your answer be immediate. Let your yes be without conditions. Let your obedience be without delay. For in that obedience you will find yourself in places you could not have reached on your own, standing in moments you could never have orchestrated, and holding blessings you once thought were impossible. That is the power of obedience. It not only fulfills the call, it positions you perfectly in the flow of heaven's timing, where miracles are no longer the exception, but the expectation. When God calls you, the first change is never in your circumstances, it is in you. We often expect the heavens to open, the scenery to shift, and the doors of opportunity to fling wide the moment we hear his voice. But heaven works in the opposite order. Before your life can be transformed, you must be transformed. The call is not merely an announcement of what God will do around you. It is a summons into what he will do within you. This is why the call can feel both exhilarating and unsettling at the same time, because it begins by exposing everything in you that cannot go with you into your next season. Old patterns of thought, unhealed wounds, limiting beliefs, and hidden fears will rise to the surface, not to shame you, but to be removed from you. The call comes with a refining fire. It will challenge the way you see yourself, stripping away false identities you've worn for years. You may have built your life around the labels others gave you, labels like not enough, too late, unqualified, or ordinary. But the moment heaven calls you, those labels no longer fit. You are not who you thought you were, and the process of transformation will prove it. This inner work is the most important part of the journey, because your life cannot hold blessings your character is not prepared to sustain. God will expand you on the inside before he expands you on the outside. This is why the call often comes with seasons of testing, pruning, and stretching. He will place you in situations that demand greater patience, deeper trust, and stronger faith than you have ever had before. You may feel as though nothing is changing, yet the most powerful change is happening beneath the surface. Your roots are going deeper. Your spirit is becoming unshakable. Your vision is being purified. And all the while, heaven is working behind the scenes to align the outward changes with the inward transformation. If the life-changing opportunities arrived before the character change, the very blessings meant to elevate you could end up overwhelming you. So God protects you by preparing you. He will strip away certain habits, attitudes, and relationships that once felt essential but now only weigh you down. He will train you to respond with wisdom where you once reacted with emotion, to walk by faith where you once stumbled in doubt. Transformation is rarely comfortable. It is the process of leaving behind everything that no longer matches who you are becoming. The call forces you to confront yourself, to let go of the version of you that was shaped by survival and step into the version of you that is shaped by purpose. And this inner shift is not just about your mindset, it changes your spiritual posture. You will find that you no longer chase things that once consumed you, no longer tolerate what once drained you, and no longer fear what once intimidated you. You begin to carry yourself differently, with quiet confidence, not arrogance, with peace, not panic. This change is evidence that the call is doing its work in you. Even before your external life reflects the promise, those around you will notice something different. They may not be able to name it, but they will feel it. The atmosphere around you changes because the atmosphere within you has changed. And here is the profound truth: once you have been transformed on the inside, the transformation on the outside becomes inevitable. Life begins to mirror what has been built within you. The right people begin to appear, not because they were never there before, but because you now recognize and attract them. Opportunities find you, not because they suddenly came into existence, but because you are now prepared to receive and steward them. The transformation within you unlocks the transformation around you, and yet this process cannot be rushed. Many grow frustrated because the external changes seem slow, but the pace is set by the depth of your inner change. If you try to bypass the inner work, you risk stepping into a future you are not yet ready to sustain. The wilderness seasons, the delays, the unexpected detours, all of these are classrooms in which God shapes you into the person who can carry the weight of the calling. Refining process will teach you discipline, resilience, and humility, for these are the qualities that anchor you when the blessings arrive. The call is not simply about changing your address, your career, your relationships, or your bank account. It is about changing you so completely that you can't walk into the new without dragging the old with you. You will know you are in the transformation phase when God starts to make you uncomfortable in places you once felt at home, when conversations you once enjoyed no longer interest you, and when dreams you once pursued with all your heart no longer feel like your dreams. This is not confusion, it is clarity. The call is redirecting your desires to match your destiny, and while the people around you may not understand it, you will feel a growing peace about letting go of the old to make room for the new. The greatest evidence that the call is real is not that your life looks different, but that you look different to yourself. You see your own reflection and realize that your faith is stronger, your patience is deeper, your vision is sharper, and your courage is greater. You start to recognize yourself as the person God saw when He first called you, and once that transformation is complete on the inside, the changes on the outside will come quickly, sometimes so quickly it will feel as though everything happened overnight. But you will know it did not happen overnight. It happened over months and years of inner work, obedience, and trust. The external transformation is simply the harvest of seeds sown in the secret place. That is why the call always transforms you before it transforms your life, because God is not just after your comfort. He is after your growth, your maturity, and your ability to stand in the place He has prepared for you without being shaken by it. And when you finally step into that place, you will not just have the blessing, you will have become the blessing. The reason the call from heaven is so impossible to escape is because it is not a foreign voice, it is the voice of your true self, the one God imagined before you ever drew breath, calling you back into alignment with who you really are. Long before you had a name, before you had a past, before the world shaped your personality, your fears, and your ambitions, there was the blueprint of your true identity written in the heart of God. That identity knows exactly why you are here, what you were designed to do, and what assignments were reserved for your hands alone. When the call comes, it is not introducing you to something new as much as it is awakening something ancient inside you, something that has been there all along, waiting for the right moment to rise. This is why you cannot truly run from it. You may distract yourself, bury it under layers of busyness, or silence it for a time with excuses and compromises, but eventually it will find you again. It may meet you in a quiet moment of reflection, in a sudden surge of dissatisfaction with your current life, or in the undeniable conviction that you are meant for more than what you are living right now. The call is relentless, not because God wants to pressure you, but because He wants to remind you of who you are. The longer you ignore it, the more restless you become, because your soul was never designed to live outside its purpose. You can pretend to be satisfied with less, but your spirit knows the truth that there is a version of you that is waiting to be lived, a life where you are not merely surviving but fulfilling the destiny encoded into your very being. When you finally stop resisting, you discover that the pull you felt all along was not toward something foreign, but toward home. Answering the call feels like stepping into a room you have been searching for your whole life, only to realize you have been carrying the key in your pocket all along, and yet stepping into your true identity is not without cost. It will require you to release the false identities you've worn, the ones shaped by fear, failure, rejection, and the opinions of others. These false selves may have kept you safe for a season, but they cannot take you where you are called to go. The call strips away these layers, sometimes painfully, so that the real you can emerge, and as it does, you will notice something powerful. The things that once intimidated you now feel like challenges you were born to face. The dreams that once felt big now feel natural, and the voice of doubt grows quieter because the voice of truth has grown louder. This is what happens when your identity aligns with your calling. Life no longer feels like a constant uphill battle against yourself. Instead, there is a flow, a sense of inevitability, as though the very fabric of reality is cooperating with your steps. This is not because the journey becomes easy, but because you are no longer working against yourself. Every challenge becomes a proving ground for the person you have become. Every opportunity feels like an open door into a room you were always meant to enter, and the more you live in this alignment, the more irresistible the call becomes, because now you have tasted what it feels like to be fully yourself. You cannot go back to the smaller, safer version of you without feeling suffocated. This is why some people, once they answer the call, seem unstoppable. It is not because they have more resources or better opportunities, but because they are finally living as who they really are. They are not trying to be anything, they simply are. The call from heaven is at its core an invitation to stop pretending, to stop settling, and to stop hiding. It is the voice of your Creator saying, "This is who I made you to be, now live it." And when you live from this place, you find that your gifts begin to flow effortlessly. Your creativity expands, and your confidence is no longer rooted in what you can do, but in who you are. Even in the face of setbacks, you remain steady because you are anchored in something deeper than circumstances. This is why the call is so persistent. It will keep echoing until you answer, because your purpose is inseparable from your identity. And the most extraordinary thing is that when you answer the call, you are not becoming someone else, you are becoming yourself. The truest, purest version of yourself that has been hidden beneath the noise and clutter of life begins to rise. That is why it feels so right, so natural, so inevitable, because it is. You were never meant to be anyone else. You were never meant to live someone else's life. The call from heaven is simply bringing you back to the life you were always meant to live, in the fullness of the person you were always meant to be. And once you taste that kind of authenticity, you will never again be content with anything less.